Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth and welcome to Book Babble. Today I am going to be doing my long-awaited bookshelf tour. I have had so many requests for me to do this video. My recording system is very stationary, I can't move it. So what I'm basically going to be doing is I'm going to show you which section of my bookshelf, I'm going to be doing this one and this one, which section of my bookshelf I am pulling books from, and then I'll show you each book individually. Each section of my bookshelf has one genre. Some of them have at the most two genres. I am not going to be showing you guys what is on top of my bookshelf because it's just basically really boring books. It's like books that I had for college, or it's like coffee table books. If you guys do want to see my coffee table books or my college books or whatever, just comment down below and let me know, and maybe I'll do that video eventually. But for right now, I'm going to start with this top left section, and this top left section has my fairy tale retellings, and it has the beginnings of my young adult fantasy section, which continues into this section right here. So let's get started. I pulled the books out that are my retellings. Not all of these are fairy tale retellings, but for the most part, they are Beastly and Cloaked by Alex Flynn, Cinderella's Dress by Shauna Slayton, The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd, A Midsummer Night's Scream by R.L. Stine, Mechanica by Betsy Cornwell, The Isle of the Lost by Melissa De La Cruz, Son of a Witch, Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, and Wicked, all by Gregory Maguire. Now I'm going to be moving on to my fantasy genre. I'm still pulling from this top left cube here, and then I'm going to be going down into this cube. And I use fantasy very loosely based. Basically, this whole section has fantasy, dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and some other subgenres in the fantasy genre. So the first book I have is Atlantia by Ali Condi, The Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, Emerald Green by Kirsten Gier, The Paladin Prophecy by Mark Frost. This book was chewed by my dog. Lux by Anna Godbertson, The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, The Host by Stephanie Meyer. Now I am pulling books from this big cube right here, and we're still in young adult fantasy. The Walled City by Ryan Groden, Trial by Fire, the UK edition by Josephine Angelini, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, The Winter's Curse by Marie Rutowski, Fallen Kingdoms and Rebel Spring by Morgan Rhodes, Eon by Allison Goodman, Mortal Gods by Kendar Blake, H2O by Virginia Bergen, Rook by Sharon Cameron, The Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury, Salt and Stone by Victoria Scott, Tumble and Fall by Alexandra Coutts, Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Roche, Tree of Water by Elizabeth Hayden, The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adier, Legend by Marie Lu, Matched by Ali Condi, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, Magonia by Maria Devana Headley, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, The Story Spinner by Becky Wallace, City of Bones, Cassandra Clare, Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi, Graceling and Fire by Kristen Kishore, The Maze Runner by James Dashner, Divergent by Veronica Roth, The Selection and the One by Kira Cass, Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld, The Darkest Minds and Never Fade by Alexandra Bracken, The Iron King by Julie Kagawa, The Hunger Games and Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, Lux Beginnings by Jennifer L. Armentrout, Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer, The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern, Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo, The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson, The Wizard Heir and the Sorcerer Heir by Cinder Williams-Chenma, Kiss of Deception and Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson, Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane, Aragon and Eldest by Christopher Paolini, A Book of Spirits and Thieves by Morgan Rhodes, Seeker by Arwen Ellis Dayton. Now I'm going to be moving on to these two shelves right here, which have my middle grade fantasy and my graphic novels. Rat Queens by Rock Upchurch, Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction, Descenders Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and this is by Jeff Lemire. I have more individual comic books in my room in like a little box. If you guys want to see a tour of my comic book box thing, I can definitely do that. Comment down below and let me know if you want to see that. Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levin, Inkheart, Ink Spell, and Ink Death by Cornelia Funk, The Bad Beginning, The Wide Window, The Miserable Mill, The Austere Academy, The Earsatz Elevator, The Vile Village, The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Slippery Slope, The Grim Grotto, and The Penultimate Peril, all by Lemony Snicket. The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. Big Fish by Daniel Wallace. Holes by Louis Sacker. The Lightning Thief. The Sea of Monsters. The Titan's Curse. The Battle of the Labyrinth. The Lost Hero, and The House of Hades, all by Rick Riordan. The Merchant of Death. The Lost City, which my dog also ate. The Never War. The Quillen Games. The Pilgrims of Rain, Raven Rise, and The Soldiers of Hala, all by D.G. McHale. Pendragon and the Guide to the Territories of Hala by D.G. McHale. Pendragon, Book 1 of the Travelers, Book 2 of the Travelers, and Book 3 of the Travelers by D.G. McHale. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And the Tales of Beedle Bombard, all by J.K. Rowling. Magical Worlds of Harry Potter by David Colbert. Artemis Fowl, The Arctic Incident, The Eternity Code, The Opal Deception, and The Time Paradox, all by Ian Colfer. 2 copies of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle, all by C.S. Lewis. Now I'm going to be moving on to this top middle thing, which is my husband's cube, and it's got like his series and his favorite books and all that good stuff. So I have Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind, all by Orson Scott Card. Armada by Ernest Cline, The Dark Tower, The Drawing of the Three, The Wastelands, Wizard and Glass, The Wolves of Kala, Songs of Susanna, The Dark Tower, and The Wind Through the Keyhole, all by Stephen King in the Dark Tower series. The Shining, Under the Dome, It, and On Writing, all by Stephen King. Now I am moving on to this bottom shelf here that has all of my paranormal/paranormal romance, and it contains young adult and adult. Daybreak, Nightfall, and Midnight, all by Ellen Connor. Living Dead in Dallas, Club Dead, and Dead Until Dark, all by Charlotte Harris. The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. Blue Bloods, The Van Allen Legacy, Lost in Time, Revelations, Masquerade, Misguided Angel, Bloody Valentine, and Keys to the Repository, all by Melissa de la Cruz. Interview with a Vampire, The Tale of the Body Thief, and The Vampire Lestat, all by Anne Rice. Vampire Academy, Frostbite, Shadow Kiss, and Blood Promise, all by Rochelle Mead. The Fury and the Dark Reunion, The Awakening and the Struggle, The Return, Nightfall, and The Return, Midnight, all by L.J. Smith. Marked and Betrayed, Hunted, Tempted, Awakened, and Chosen, all by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. The first 3 books in the Sweep series, Book of Shadows, The Coven, and Blood Witch by Kate Tiernan. Fallen, Torment, and Passion, all by Lauren Kate. Volume 1 in the Night World series, Secret Vampire, Daughters of Darkness, and Spellbinder. Volume 2 in the Night World series, Dark Angel, The Chosen, and Soulmate. And Volume 3 in the Night World series, Huntress, Black Dawn, and Witchlight by L.J. Smith. Lord Loss, Demon Thief, Beck, Blood Beast, Demon Apocalypse, Death's Shadow, Wolf Island, Dark Calling, and Slaughter, all by Darren Shan. Now I'm going to be moving on to this shelf down here, which has my contemporary, and it has my big classic books. I'm going to do contemporary first, and then I'm going to move on to my classics, and then I'm going to move on to this shelf here, which has the rest of my classics. Burned, Crank, Identical, and Tricks, all by Ellen Hopkins. Another Day by David Levithan. Maybe This Time by Jennifer Cruz. Shopaholic and Sister, Shopaholic Ties the Knot, Mini Shopaholic, and Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. Go Ask Alice and the Book of David by Anonymous. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist by David Levithan and Rachel Cohn. The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisenberger. The Edge of Never by J.A. Redmersky. The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. The Comeback Season, You Are Here, The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight. The Geography of You and Me, and This Is What Happy Looks Like, all by Jennifer E. Smith. My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Marga. The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia Hand. Love and Other Unknown Variables by Shannon Lee Alexander. The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. And If I Stay by Gail Foreman. Now I'll be doing my large classic books, and then I'm going to go up to this shelf right there that has my other classics. The Divine Comedy by Dante. 4 classic novels by Jane Austen. This has Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Persuasion. Grey's Anatomy by Henry Grey. Let's be honest, the only reason why I bought this is because I'm obsessed with the TV show. Complete Tales and Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. Complete Fairy Tales by the Brothers Grimm. Complete Plays by William Shakespeare. Best Love Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Dracula by Bram Stoker. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. The Giver by Lois Lowry. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. Beowulf translated by Seamus Heaney. The Story of Dr. Dolittle by Hugh Lofting. The Christmas Stories by Charles Dickens. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. White Fang by Jack London. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Candide by Voltaire. Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Heart of Darkness and The Secret Sharer by Joseph Conrad. All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque. Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn and the Prince and the Pauper. To the Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Moby Dick by Herman Melville. 1984 by George Orwell. Animal Farm by George Orwell. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. The Land of Oz by Frank L. Baum. Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now I will be going to this bottom shelf. Up here is adult science fiction, and down here is adult fantasy. Otherland by Tad Williams. The Hostile Takeover by S. Andrew Swan. By Heresy's Distrust by David Weber. Ilium by Dan Simmons. Gravity Dreams by L. E. Modisette. World War Z by Max Brooks. The Foundation by Isaac Asimov. The Devil's Nebula and Satan's Reach by Eric Brown. Second Foundation. Foundation's Edge. And Foundation and Empire, all by Isaac Asimov. The Clone Apocalypse by Stephen L. Kent. A Fire Upon the Deep by Werner Ving. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Or Blade Runner by Philip K. Dick. Dune by Frank Herbert. Dead Empire's Fall by Walter John Williams. Destiny's Road by Larry Niven. A World Divided by Marion Zimmer Bradley. Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Charles Sheffield. And the last book in the science fiction shelf is Old Man's War by John Scalzi. On my adult fantasy shelf, I have A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, A Feast of Crows, and Dance with Dragons by George R. R. Martin. Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, A King of Infinite Space by Alan Steele, The Blood King by Gail Z. Martin, Dragons of Autumn Twilight by Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman, Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, The Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski, Blood of Promise and Crimson Campaign, both by Brian McClellan, all 3 books in the Lord of the Rings series, The Hobbit and the Silmarillion, all by J.R.R. Tolkien, Unfinished Tales of Numenor and Middle-earth by J.R.R. Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien. Alright guys, that is the end of my first bookshelf. Now I'm going to be moving on to this bookshelf. I'm probably going to start with this cube and move to this one, then this one, then this one, because that is my historical fiction, and then just general fiction, and then I'll move on to the nonfiction and the other things. Ladies in Waiting by Anne Somerset. The Hidden Diary of Marie Antoinette. The Last Wife of King Henry VIII. The Secret Life of Josephine, and The Favored Queen, all by Carolee Erickson. Mademoiselle Boleyn by Robin Maxwell. By Royal Decree by Kate Emerson. The Queen's Mistake by Diane Hager. The King's Daughter by Christy Dickinson. The Princess of Nowhere by Prince Lorenzo Borges. Farewell My Queen by Chantal Thomas. The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I, Elizabeth by Rosalind Mills. The Lady of the Rivers. The White Princess. The White Queen. The Queen's Fool. The Other Boleyn Girl. The Virgin's Lover, The Other Queen, The Constant Princess, and The Boleyn Inheritance, all by the historical fiction queen, Philippa Gregory. Mistress of the Revolution by Catherine Dolores. Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. The Silver Rose by Suzanne Carroll. From a Distance by Tamara Alexander. Seabiscuit by Laura Hildenbrand. Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosnay. Galileo's Daughter by Deva Sabel. The Lady and the Unicorn, Burning Bright, The Girl with the Pearl Earring, and Falling Angels, all by Tracy Chevalier. The Girl Who Chased Away Sorrow, and A Time for Courage, both in the Dear America series. Mary, Queen of Scots, A Queen Without a Country, and Eleanor, Crown Jewel of Aquitaine, both in the Royal Diary series. Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen, The Kite Runner by Claire Tusini, The Dress Lodger by Sherry Holman, and The Help by Catherine Stockett. These are all of my historical fictions. The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson, My Sister's Keeper by Joni Picoult, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, The Nanny Diaries by Emma McLaughlin, White Oleander by Janet Finch, and The Mermaid Chair by Sumant Kidd are all of my general fiction stories. Now moving on to nonfiction. My one science nonfiction is The Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. General philosophy, I have Infinity and the Mind, and What Everybody is Saying by Joe Navarro. Memoirs and Autobiographies, I have The Freedom Writer's Diary by Aaron Gruwell. The Pursuit of Happiness by Chris Gardner. 3 Cups of Tea by Greg Mortensen and David Oliver Mellon. The Words of Martin Luther King Jr., Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, and 3 Weeks with My Brother by Nicholas Sparks and Micah Sparks. In this section right here, I have some more philosophy books that are mostly Buddhist philosophy. Cultivating a Compassionate Heart, The Yoga Method of Shenrezig, The Compassion of Zen by Zen Master Seung Shan, A History of Buddhist Philosophy by David J. Kulupanana, Awakening to the Sacred by Lama Surya Das, Becoming Enlightened by the Dalai Lama, Cultivating Compassion by Jeffrey Hopkins, Going on Being, Buddhism and the Way of Change by Mark Epstein, A New Translations of the Teachings of the Buddha with a Guide to Reading with the Text by Glenn Wallace, The Mirror of Zen by Boip Joang, Bhagavad Gita as It Is, A Guide to Tibetan Sound Healing, Introducing Buddhism by Charles S. Prebish and Damian Cohen, The Wise Heart, A Guide to the Universal Teachings of Buddhist Philosophy by Jack Kornfield, another translation of classic Buddhist texts by Gil Frosdale, and The Introduction to Aristotle, which is edited by Richard McCohen. I have 3 Norse mythology books. The first one is Exploring the Northern Tradition by Galina Karskova. Then Essential Astrayu, Walking the Path of Norse Paganism by Diana L. Paxson. And Northern Tradition for the Solitary Practitioner by Galina Karskova and Raven Caldera. I also have Mythology, which was my textbook in college, and it was by Ava M. Thury. This was such a fascinating textbook that I just kept it on my shelves next to the rest of my mythology books. I also have 2 natural remedies / home remedies books. The first one is Herbal Recipes for Vibrant Health. This is by Rosemary Gladstars, and this hunker, which has been passed down in my family for 3 generations, is the Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine. It has been well worn, and I have marked some stuff in there as well. Norse Mythology by John Lindo. In my next cube, I have some historical nonfiction. The first one is Elizabeth I by Anne Somerset, Women Who Ruled by Gita M. Jackson, Modern European History by Birdsell S. Vialt, Heritage Western Civilization by John L. Beatty, Europe Since 1945, A Concise History, the 3rd edition, by J. Robert Weggs. I also have 4 books for my husband, which is about ancient Chinese fighting styles. So I have Aikido and the Dynamic Sphere, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, Mind Manipulation, Ancient and Modern Ninja Techniques. I'm sorry to my husband, but this always makes me laugh. The Way and the Power by Frederick J. Leverett. The last and final section of my bookshelf tour has some military strategy books that my husband has and some military fiction. So I'm going to go through the fiction first. This is The Cruel Sea by Nicholas Monsarrat. When This Cruel War Is Over by Thomas Fleming. The Terrible Hours by Peter Maas. Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton. I don't think this is technically a military fiction, but it's the closest I could get to it. And the last is Rainbow Six by Tom Clancy. The military nonfiction, I have Caesar's Legion by Stephen Dando Collins. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I actually think this is a fiction. Rising Sun and Tumbling Bear by Richard I can't. The Renaissance War, Thomas F. Arnold. The Military Experience in the Age of Reason by Christopher Duffy. Warfare in the 17th Century by John Childs. Alex Kershaw, Escape from the Deep, a true story of courage and survival during World War II. The Army Survival Handbook. Another Army Survival Handbook, but this one is by John Lofty Wiseman. Secrets of Samurai. Infinity Combat by John F. Antale. Infantry Aces and Grenadiers. This is in the Stockport Military History series. Oh my god, that's it. We're done. I'm so tired. This took me literally 2 hours, guys. If you guys seriously stayed to the end of this video, I commend you. As of right now, this has taken like an hour and a half to record, and that's with me pausing in between because I like paused the recording to put the books away and reorganize my shelves. So this has literally taken me like 3 hours, and it is an hour and 15 minutes of straight recording time. So again, if you guys stayed here, I greatly commend you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. I'm going to go take a nap for like the next 5 hours. Bye!